I just went on a Terminator marathon and binged all 6 movies, so we're now going to stop and rank them. So coming into last place is easily Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. Boy, I really did not like this movie. I thought this movie was terrible. So, I thought I was going to say that this movie was like fun but flawed. Nope. No, I had heard people dunk on this movie, but no one nearly had dunked on this movie as hard as me. Maybe maybe one YouTuber I know had dunked on it pretty hard, but I think I might actually have dunked on it harder than he had. But he called it like a spoof, and it kind of is. It's mostly a spoof, basically. He will know who he is, and you're kind of right. But this movie is just so offensive to the Terminator franchise. For starters, it's ruining the ending of T2. It is trying to take all the things that made the original Terminator and Terminator 2 so amazing. It tries to use them like Get Down, I'll Be Back, and all sorts of other iconic lines. They keep using over and over and over and over because it feels like they're just trying to shove that in your face so that you won't hate the movie as much. Nope, I really did not. No, I did not care. I did not care about this movie at all. I really did not like it. Like the Terminatrix, awful villain. Like there's a scene where she like has her breasts grow for no reason just to sensualize a cop. It makes no sense. And I mean, you can make the Terminatrix, but you need to do it right. But that is awful. Like this movie was one of the movies that every single movie they kept on coming up with a new Terminator. In every single movie there's a new Terminator that they introduce, and it feels so unbelievably stupid that they do this. It's offensive pretty much to everything that came before it. And the reason I put this movie in last place is because even the one that I'm about to talk about, I can still find some moments saying that this is so bad it's good. This movie is so bad it's terrible. I will probably try to stay as far away from this as I can until I have to do another ranking of these movies. If a new Terminator movie comes out, which I doubt because Dark Fate was such a colossal failure with most people that they probably dug themselves a grave. So, but anyway, I'm just gonna try to stay as far away from this movie as I can because I really did not like it. At number 5, I'm going with Terminator Genesis, and the bottom two I can say are both really, really bad movies. I can tell you that if you think that Genesis is worse than Rise of the Machines, I can say that I'm not going to be mad about that because both movies I think are very offensive to their timeline and franchise. I don't consider either of them canon. Like if I had to take two of these movies and I would say are not canon, these are by far, without question, the two that I would consider saying are not canon. None of them are except for 1 and 2, which are the only ones I will admit are canon. And this movie just really, really did not do me. I, for a time, was like, oh, wow, I'm actually enjoying this. And then it just started to fall down. They built themselves a foundation, then they just started knocking it down, crumbling. The casting here is awful. Like Jai Courtney as Kyle Reese. Who in the world would think that is a good idea? He is an awful Kyle Reese. Like, he keeps coming into big franchises that are just so amazing, where the original one is a classic, and which he's done twice with Die Hard and Terminator Genesis, and he has managed to not only make a film that is, by Rotten Tomatoes, the worst in their franchise, and also and also by most people say is the worst in their franchise, and he has managed to, he single-handedly managed to be one of the crew parts of managing to kill the Die Hard franchise permanently. Like, it is now dead because Bruce Willis. is not coming back, so they would not dare. So he has managed to ruin the Die Hard franchise, and this one he almost ruined it completely. And getting John Connor as a Terminator, I really don't like it. Maybe if I didn't already know this because they didn't spoil it in the preview, then maybe it could have been a bit better. But as for the fact they spoiled in the preview, the Terminator movies, as I'm about to talk about in a second, have both decided to put a lot of stuff in their previews about Terminators and who they end up being that they really should not be doing, because they had it in Salvation. They then, oops, well, they had it in another movie and they didn't learn their lesson. They decided to put it in again, and this time people were like, they probably should have not put that in the preview. This time people were furious that they did that. They were absolutely furious. So I just find this movie very, very, I would say that it's really, really offensive to it, but I do think that there's some so bad it's good moments in this movie that keep it from being at the bottom. At number 4, I have Terminator Salvation. Now, this is without question by far the most controversial of any of these movies. Like, you either think that this movie is one of the best in the franchise, or you are one of the people that absolutely dunks on this movie, considers it offensive, considers it uncanon, considers it so bad that you cannot even look at it. So I've always been more on the side that I think that this movie is good. I think it's really good. I think it's really decent. I don't know why people go and crack on it so much. Yes, there's some bad moments in it, like the Arnold CGI scene looks awful. That is possibly one of the most awful looking scenes of a movie I have ever seen. Based on pure looks, it looks awful. But I can get over that when you think about how interesting it is. Like, Sam Worthington's character is Marcus Wright, one of the most interesting and intriguing characters in this entire franchise. One of my favorite characters in this entire franchise. Comment down below if you guys want me to do a tier list for the Terminator characters, and I will highly consider doing that if you guys want me to. So anyway, Christian Bale, there's not. I cannot express how much better I cannot even express how much better he is of a John Connor than Nick Stahl. There is such a ginormous gap. I hated Nick Stahl as John Connor. I forgot to mention that when I talked about T3 because there was a lot of stuff I needed to talk about for how bad that movie was. But yeah, Christian Bale is a really good John Connor. I am very glad they didn't go with the original ending they were going to be doing with the film of having John Connor be skinned alive, then having his skin, not skinned alive, but he would have been skinned, and then having his skin be put on Marcus as the leader of the resistance. That would have been brave. It would have gotten an R rating. It would have been rated R if they had done that. So it wouldn't have been able to get into PG-13, which it did, except for the director's cut, which is rated R. But it's a really fun film. I do think that there's some moments that are iffy, like the 30-foot tall Terminators. I don't buy that. They should not have had that in the film. So other than that, I think it's a really good film that gets a lot of hate and needs to be respected in this community more, and people need to take it on its own terms and not as a Terminator film. Bringing us into the top 3 is Terminator Dark Fate. Now, I get it. This is a very divisive one too. You're either in the category where you love this film, or you're in the category where you hate this film. Like IMDb, this is the lowest of any of the IMDb. This is the lowest rated by far. Well, actually, not by far. It's rated 1 star low. I mean, not 1 star, a point of a star. But anyway, I get if that you went into the theater and you saw immediately, like within the first 5 minutes, what they do to John Connor, and then you just left, and then just went and screamed. But me, I can understand why they do that. And if you don't like that, that's your problem because you're wrong. Here's why. The reason that they did that was not as it's not like what they do in Terminator 3 and Alien 3 where they just try and sabotage the ending. It's a much superior film. They do it because they're trying to reframe the timeline so that way they can have their own story. They're reframing the timeline. They're not trying to undo the ending of Judgment Day. Trust me, they already knew after seeing how much people did not like Rise of the Machines. They already knew how much trouble they would have been in if they had done that. So, believe me, I know that is immediately why they did not do that. So, it is not an Alien 3. It's not a Terminator 3. It's a Dark Fate. And believe me, I have fun with this movie. And Sarah Connor, and I actually like her in this movie. I get a lot of people said that she shouldn't have been in the film. I liked her. The T-800 as Carl, very good. I always enjoy seeing the Terminator in these films, except for in the Rise of the Machines, where I can't stand him. But he is much better in this film. This is one of his best performances, probably his best performance since Judgment Day, and he's a lot more of a sidekick role in this. He's not really a main lead because the main focuses are Sarah Connor and the other two, which Danny, and I cannot remember the other one. It's blanking out at the moment, but he's a really good character. I really like. I can imagine if you watched the opening scene and you just turned it off immediately and gave up on this film. Like, if you did that, then I can see why, because I know a lot of people do. One of the reasons I didn't was because they had taken John Connor and they had rebooted the franchise several different times. And 2 out of those 3 times when they did John Connor, they screwed him. Actually, no, they didn't. Well, 2 out of the 3 times that they did John Connor with a replace, they screwed him up big time. So I was already kind of tired of John Connor. So why do people suddenly complain about John dying? After all, they absolutely hated him in the other ones, and John Connor never gets any love in these movies. It's always Sarah Connor in the T-800. So why are you complaining if John Connor dies if you don't think that he's a very good character in this franchise, or don't think it's needed to mention him? So that's actually more on you than it is on the people who wrote this. So I do think it's a really good film. It needs more respect in this community. So it's a really fun film that I have a lot of fun watching. The Terminator. Now, okay, I'm just going to say this. This is extremely rare for a sequel to actually end up higher in this ranking than an original, or an original film to be in second place. That is extremely rare on my channel. Believe me, I'm very biased towards originals half the time. So, more than half. So, we're talking about the Terminator. What a brilliant concept. This is like lightning in a bottle stuff. And what they were able to accomplish was such a low budget. Like, the score, fantastic. The characters, fantastic. The set design, fantastic. The story, fantastic. Everything is just so fantastic about this. And even movies like Terminator Genesis, which kind of tried to rip it off by using the exact same, they have several scenes from the original, which they kind of just reframe. So, that is another reason why I prefer the Terminator to Terminator Genesis, because this does it better and it also does it first. If anyone wanted to watch a scene from the original, they're going to go to the Terminator. They're not going to see a reenacted part of it from Terminator Genesis where the de-aging effects on Arnold look awful. So they're obviously going to go to this movie, which has some really tense moments. This is more of a horror film than it is an action film. This is a pure slasher at times. Arnold as the Terminator, brilliant. He's a physical threat. He can be really smart at times. He's learning human emotion kind of, because he's figuring out their techniques and how he's more of the serial killer, so he's learning from them to learn to be smart about it. He's being careful. He even says that he's a friend of Sarah Connor's at one point just to get in, and he's being smart. He knows what he's doing as an AI. So this is just a brilliant movie. This is top tier movies. I knew immediately which was going to be my number one. Even before I watched these movies ever, I knew immediately which was going to be my number one. But I watched The Terminator. I was like, oh, wow. Like, oh wow, oh wow. I'm actually gonna say I'm gonna give the next one on here, which if you have not been listening, I will not spoil for you yet. I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm gonna give the Terminator the benefit of the doubt that it could be my favorite, and it actually wasn't. I am very sorry to say that. I know a lot of people of you will say that the Terminator is, but I can easily say this: more people will go for Terminator 2. Dang it! Sorry. Well, the more people will go for my next for my number one probably than they will for my number two. Believe me, I know a lot of people that say this is the best. And if you have that, then I am completely fine with that. I love both movies. You can't go wrong with either one. But this is just such an amazing movie and such a lightning in the bottle concept. But easily, without question, no doubt about it, is easily Terminator 2 Judgment Day. This is my favorite movie of all time. So normally it was probably like I was thinking that it was probably going to be number one on this ranking. Maybe not, but probably just for common sense. But this movie absolutely fantastic. All of it just screams just best sequel of all time. Like there's not a single thing this movie does right that the Terminator did right, and but this well, I mean, let me just say this. Everything that the Terminator did, Terminator 2 builds upon. Like, the first one, Sarah Connor is just this amazing character who is more of the damsel in distress than the first one. This one, she is more of this amazing, very, very strong-led female character who's not afraid to do some bad stuff to people, and she's essentially become a Terminator herself, where she's trying to kill Miles Dyson, and it's just so fantastic the way they amazingly execute it, and I absolutely love this film. And I've actually, I think, inspired a few people on my channel who say that this is their favorite movie of all time, too. I may be wrong, but just give me this win, people. I mean, I'm not a very good role model for a lot of people, especially my brothers who don't exactly consider me a role model, but yeah. But it's an amazing film. You have to admit, there's some absolutely fantastic action. People do complain they take out the horror element of this franchise, put in a comedy element. Why is that a reason you would say that the original is higher? Because action, it probably works better than horror, because horror is more slow. Action is very well paced, and it's just so inherently natured in just so many fantastic and brilliant ways. There's the action in this movie is fantastic. The CGI. The CGI is so amazing. The Terminator, like when Arnold's stitching up his eye, the effects to this day, they look pretty bad. Like they look pretty bad to this day now. Meanwhile, the Terminator 2, the effects are some of the best I have seen in film history. And believe me, I've seen some really good effects. Like, even for James Cameron, who has Avatar under his ledger for effects-wise, he has this where the T-1000, some of the most amazing effects ever. So, everything just it builds upon the original. It feels better than the original. Like, anything that you can talk about the Terminator that the Terminator got right, either Terminator 2 got right or got right better, which pretty much in every sense got better, because you can definitely tell that they went a bit more trying to use some computer generated stuff on the final act in that one, which felt a bit weird. Meanwhile, this one, they have such an amazing final act, and it is so deep because they make a robot, the T-800, able to learn the value of human life. He has an amazing character arc through 1 and 2, which 3 then tried to screw up. And everything is just so amazing. He learns why humans cry, and which means that when he's lowered into the vat of molten steel, you feel so sad. You're just hoping that they're gonna go like, just kidding, but they're not. They actually have him go into the molten steel. And as a guy who on multiple days has said that this is my favorite movie character of all time, this just it just makes me so hurt when he has to be lowered in. So this is just such a strong movie, so it easily is coming into first place for me.